How's it going, Packers fans? Welcome back to the channel. So on Monday, Packers offensive lineman Elgton Jenkins was interviewed on Good Morning Football and had some interesting things to say about two of the Packers rookies from this last draft. During the offseason, all eyes are always on the current rookie draft class and what they'll give to that football team going forward for the upcoming season. And that much is very true for these two players. But before we get into what Elgton Jenkins said, if you guys are a new viewer to this channel, I'd really appreciate it if you went down and clicked the subscribe button. It helps out my channel a lot, helps me with the whole YouTube algorithm, as well as leaving a like on the video. I post all Packers content all throughout the week, off season, during the season, any time of the year. Packers content all right here on this channel and news. So if you don't want to miss out on any of that, go down and click subscribe. So the two players that Elgton Jenkins was talking about on Good Morning Football are both of the Green Bay Packers second round draft choices, Jaden Reed and Luke Musgrave. And Elgton had a lot of positive things to say, so let's get into it. Man, I was looking at Luke Musgrave and Jaden Reed a lot. Our weapons, man. They got some serious speed, Jaden and Luke, Jenkins said. Just being able to see them out there running and getting vertical up the field, running routes and stuff like that, it really put a smile on my face. I'm ready to see what's in store for those guys. I feel like the future's bright for those guys, Luke Musgrave and Jaden Reed. I've got a lot of high expectations for those guys in year one for sure. So that is certainly some really high praise for two rookies who have only been here for OTAs and minicamp, for a veteran player, one of the team leaders, one of the better players on offense to outright say, hey, you two are impressing me. You look like you have some extreme speed, and I'm super excited for you guys to be on this offense and what you'll contribute to in year one. And this year, more than years past, rookies are going to contribute more, right? This transition of Aaron Rodgers going to Jordan Love is not the only type of transition that this team is going through. This team also got a lot younger. There are only 3 players that are 30 plus years old, and the oldest is Pat O'Donnell at 32 years old. The other two, David Bakhtiari and Preston Smith. So this team is way younger than we're normally used to seeing. And that is relevant because now more than ever, players that are rookies or players that, were sitting behind veterans for a couple years are going to start seeing a ton of opportunities and a ton of snaps, and that obviously includes Jaden Reed and Luke Musgrave. In years past, when they draft receivers in the second round, like Devontae Adams, Randall Cobb, they kind of have 2 veterans to sit under. Now, yes, Jaden Reed is under Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson, but both of those guys were rookies just last year. So Jaden Reed is going to get a lot of opportunities. If we remember back in 2011, Randall Cobb came into the building and was kind of the 5th guy on the depth chart, really just a kick returner, punt returner, and yes, he did score an offense in his first NFL game, but he was behind a lot of guys. Same goes for Devontae Adams, being behind, Jordy Nelson, James Jones. There's still a ton of wide receivers in that room that were clearly getting a lot more snaps than him. But honestly, I think this year is going to be totally different for a Packers rookie wide receiver. And I think Jaden Reed is going to be a starter day one. Now, I quickly want to go over what Jaden Reed's role might be with the Green Bay Packers, because in my eyes, he's the day one starter in slot. But Jaden Reed isn't only a slot wide receiver, right? He has a ton of versatility. He's not simply just going to be the slot wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers, and that's it. Because Jaden Reed can play outside, can play inside, can be your motion guy. Jaden Reed actually, throughout his 4-year college career, 1 year at Western Michigan, his last 3 at Michigan State, played more out wide. He played 49% in the slot over his 4-year college career and 50.5% out wide. And the last 2 seasons, he's mainly been an out wide wide receiver for that Michigan State offense, including his best season in 2021, where he had 946 yards. Now, when Elgton Jenkins was talking about Reed and Musgrave, he mentioned these guys are extremely fast, which that is definitely the case for Jaden Reed. During his combine, he only ran a 4.45 40, but he was also dealing with a very serious eye infection during the NFL Combine, and that would definitely mess with you. I mean, he could only see out of one eye when running these Combine drills. So when he met with the Packers in the pre-draft visit, Packers scout John Eric Sullivan actually clocked Jaden Reed in at a 4.37 40, and I think this matches more of his speed. When I watch his tape, when I watch him in practice, this guy seems extremely fast, and he does seem like a 4.37 player. Now, if we remember last year's Combine, Christian Watson ran a 4.36 40, so very similar speed there. The obvious difference is Christian Watson is nearly 6'5", where Jaden Reed is only about 5'11", but Jaden Reed is probably as fast, if not faster, on the field than Christian Watson, and definitely more agile due to him being a lot shorter. Overall, Jaden Reed is just a very technical wide receiver. All the tape I've watched from him, he runs routes very crisp, very well, and he does them fast. He doesn't waste too many steps. I actually put out an entire tape video going over his tape from Michigan State on my YouTube channel a couple weeks back. So if you haven't watched that already and you want to go watch some Jaden Reed tape and what he could bring to this Packers offense and see that actually on film, just click the link right above. Another important thing to note about Jaden Reed is I believe he plays a lot bigger than his frame. So as I said earlier, Jaden Reed is only 5'11", just under 5'11", and 187 pounds. But just like on the field, he plays a lot faster. He also plays a lot bigger. He's not afraid of contact. He's not afraid of contested catch situations, and he made plenty of contested catches at Michigan State. And I think Jaden Reed will be a perfect piece for the middle of the field. Both Jaden Reed and Luke Musgrave, which we'll get in Luke Musgrave after this, I think will be perfect for the middle of the field. Something that the Packers kind of neglected under Aaron Rodgers, whether that was Aaron Rodgers doing or the scheme they were running under Aaron Rodgers. I feel like the Packers need to use the middle of the field a lot more under Jordan Love, and I believe they will. I think Jordan Love's going to fit perfectly into what Matt LaFleur wants to do as an offense, and adding players like Jaden Reed and Luke Musgrave are signs at that the Packers are going to start using the middle of the field more, whether that's through play action or other concepts and designs, whereas it always seemed like it was isolation routes and outside the numbers for Aaron Rodgers. I think the Packers should really start using the middle of the field more, and like I said, Jaden Reed is going to be perfect at that, and that's kind of why I see him as the day one slot guy, because they can use him out of the slot for across the middle situations, third down situations, quick routes that he's really good at running. But all the Packers wide receivers are going to play some slot. Like, they're going to use Christian Watson at big slot to run, slot fades. Romeo Doubs may play some slot, Samori Toure. All these wide receivers can. I just believe Jaden Reed will be the primary slot guy going forward. And speaking of wide receivers, I'm very interested to see how they use the last three wide receivers if they keep six guys. So obviously Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed are the first three guys. But then they also have Tay Wicks, Samori Toure, and one of Grant DeBose, Bo Melton, Malik Heath, one of those guys. So I'm very interested to see how they use Tay Wicks as well. He's probably just going to be a rotational depth guy year one. Samori Toure may even see some snaps over him as well, just depending on how they want to do that. But I think all these guys do have some versatility. Tay Wicks is primarily an outside guy, but I think Toure can play, both, like I said, Dobbs, Watson, Reed. All these guys have a lot of versatility, so I'm very excited the direction of this wide receiver room and just how young and talented and athletic it really is. Before I move on to Luke Musgrave, leave a comment down below what you expect Jaden Reed's stat line to be year one. All right, now moving on to Luke Musgrave, because Elgton Jenkins talked about Jaden Reed and Luke Musgrave and how excited he is for both of these players, and I couldn't agree more. Elgton Jenkins also said Luke Musgrave has some serious speed, and yes, that is 100% true, especially for his frame. He doesn't have 4.37 speed, but he's also nearly 6'6". He has 4.61 40 time. He's nearly 6'6", 253 pounds, and that is not typical. A guy that big with that frame should not be able to move that fast. And he's already looked super fast, as advertised during OTAs and minicamp. Yes, the pads aren't on during that, so it's a little bit different, but I am super excited to see him when the pads finally come on in training camp later next month. And just like Jaden Reed, Luke Musgrave has already gotten some starts with the ones. So Jaden Reed got starts with the ones in the slot. Luke Musgrave has gotten some starts at tight end during OTAs and minicamp, what have you, alongside Josiah DeGuara. So DeGuara got some starts. Got the majority of the starts, should I say, but Musgrave got some starts as well and has been impressing a lot during the early offseason portion. Now, I wanted to dive a little bit into the rookie tight end position as a whole, because it's a very interesting one. So we could be super hype about Luke Musgrave and what he looks like on paper with his height to speed ratio and what he could look like for this Green Bay Packers offense. But the transition at tight end from a rookie tight end to really transitioning into the NFL doesn't have a great history, right? A lot of the tight ends, whether they're in a first round tight end, a second round, a third round, normally don't have a breakout season year one. Now, Kyle Pitts did do it in 2021 where he had 1,026 yards, but that is definitely an outlier because only 7 tight ends have ever eclipsed 700 yards in their rookie seasons, and that's ever. The only other tight ends other than Kyle Pitts to eclipse 700 yards their rookie season in the 2000s have been Evan Ingram in 2017 and Jeremy Shockey in 2002. That's it. That's the list. So although Luke Musgrave looks as advertised, I think we need to tamper our expectations a little bit, because I don't think he's going to come out here and have an 800, 900 yard rookie tight end season, but he doesn't have to, right? When we're thinking of Luke Musgrave and the type of tight end he is, just him being on the field and threatening a defense up the seam, up the middle of the field, actually threatening a defense vertical as a tight end is important enough. Although he might not get 700 plus yards, him being on the field will help other aspects of the Packers offense and the wide receivers, their ability to get open, have single coverage, not have safety help over top of certain wide receivers. And Luke Musgrave will help with that a lot. And Musgrave will get plenty of opportunities. I still think Josiah DeGuara may be our quote-unquote day one starter. He might start out at tight end the first snap of the season, but I think there's going to be a lot of rotation at that tight end. DeGuara can play pretty much all three spots, and he's been in the system for 3 years now. So you could play him at move, you could play him in line, and what they kind of have been using him at that H-back role. Luke Musgrave is going to be that guy that is their pure move tight end. Yes, he's an okay blocker. He definitely needs to work on that, but he's more of your wide receiver type of tight end where you can split him out wide. You can put him in the slot as a big slot. You can throw him in line and run him across the field or run him vertical over the top of linebackers. So that's where you're going to use Luke Musgrave, where Tucker Kraft is more of that inline guy. You know, you're very comfortable Tucker Kraft blocking. He was an excellent blocker in college and run blocking, pass blocking. So that's where you're going to use him in DeGuara. Where Musgrave, I think there's going to be a lot of times where we see him out wide in a 5-wide set or in the slot as a big slot. And simply moving Musgrave around will create so many mismatches against the defense, right? If they have a linebacker man-on-man with Luke Musgrave, he will beat him for speed. If they have a small slot corner, Musgrave will beat him for size. So, like I said earlier, he may not get those 600, 700 yards his rookie season, but he's going to create so many mismatches where the defense really has to focus on him, and that'll open up a ton of opportunities for players like Watson and Dobbs, Reed, and even Aaron Jones. But I still think it's going to be a pretty big transition for Luke Musgrave. He was a 4-year player to Oregon State, but didn't play that much. He only totaled 633 yards and 2 touchdowns in his entire career, but he also wasn't utilized too well at the Oregon State offense, and he also had an injury one of the years, and he only played 10 plus games one season. So it's definitely going to be a next level transition for Luke Musgrave, more so than other tight ends around the league that are rookies this year, just because he hasn't had a ton of experience. But that's okay. I'm very confident in the Packers coaching and being able to, really coach Luke Musgrave up to be a very quality tight end for this offense. I also want you to leave your comment down below what your expectation of Luke Musgrave stat-wise is for his rookie season. Just comment that with the Jaden Reed one. But that about does it for this video. I wanted to go over what Elgton Jenkins said and kind of piggyback off of what he said, because I also believe the same thing, right? I believe Jaden Reed and Luke Musgrave will contribute a lot year one. Now, how much that is, we'll see what exactly happens. But Elgton Jenkins is definitely right about one thing. These guys have a lot of talent. They're extremely fast, and they're putting smiles on people's faces. So I'm super excited for training camp to start. Super excited for the season, preseason. It's all just going to be totally different than what we're used to seeing normally under Aaron Rodgers. So I'm just super excited for all that. But that about does it for this video. I appreciate everyone watching. I'll catch you on the next one. And as always, go Pack.